Welcome to the mandatory reporting training for Boulder Valley School District created by Blue Sky Bridge. We'll talk about child advocacy centers and about the types of abuse that should be reported. We'll also talk about how to respond to a disclosure, how to make a report, and about best practices to enable successful investigations. Thank you so much for working with kids every day. Your job is so important. As someone who works with kids, you are a mandatory reporter. The goal of this training is to help you understand what that means. Did you know there are agencies that specialize in helping with child abuse investigations? The staff in these agencies are specially trained in asking the tough questions, so you don't have to. It used to be that kids and teens had to tell their story many times to different people. A teacher, a parent, a nurse, a caseworker from the Department of Human Services, a law enforcement officer, a representative from the DA's office. Often the interviews would be in intimidating places like police stations or hospitals, done by people who might not know how to talk to kids. By the end, the child had been re-traumatized many times over, and different people might have different parts of the story. Now things work better. A child advocacy center brings together all of the professionals who investigate crimes against children, the detectives, the caseworkers, the district attorneys. These professionals, along with the staff of the Child Advocacy Center, are called the Multidisciplinary Team, or MDT. Research shows that having kids and teens talk about traumatic events in a safe, child-friendly environment, like a child advocacy center, is not only the best way for this type of investigation to move forward, but also the least traumatizing for kids. Next, you'll watch a video where our Executive Director, Gina Earls, explains what Blue Sky Bridge is all about.
Blue Sky Bridge is a nonprofit child advocacy center accredited by the National Children's Alliance. Our mission is to foster safe communities, healing, and justice to end child abuse, right here in Boulder County. Blue Sky Bridge offers a child-friendly environment where children and their non-offending caregivers come to talk and to receive support and services when there's been an allegation of child abuse. We also work diligently throughout our community to give children a voice and to put a stop to abuse before it starts. Child abuse is a community responsibility, and partnerships are critical to our success. We're part of a multidisciplinary team whose primary focus is to address individual cases of child abuse. We partner with the Boulder County District Attorney's Office, the Department of Housing and Human Services, and all of the law enforcement agencies in Boulder County, as well as Boulder Community Health and our school districts. In every community and every neighborhood, at least 1 in 10 children are sexually abused before they turn 18. And then there are more children who experience neglect or physical or emotional abuse. They might witness domestic violence or other crimes. All children deserve a childhood free from abuse, and that is why Blue Sky Bridge's work is so important. Not only do we want to make sure that the children who come forward have effective and safe care, we also want to bring an end to child abuse so that it doesn't happen in the first place.
In the video, you can see what kids may experience when they come to Blue Sky Bridge. Now we'll take a look in more detail at the different programs offered by Blue Sky Bridge. There are 4 main programs at Blue Sky Bridge: the Forensic Interview and Family Support Program, our Education Program for both kids and adults, the Therapy Program, which includes individual therapy and group therapy, and last but not least, the Medical Program. One of our most important jobs is to provide forensic interviews for alleged child victims of a crime or witnesses to a crime. We are a neutral party whose main role is to gather information from children. And we also provide crisis counseling and resource referrals to non-offending caregivers while the child is in the interview room. Because most of the cases that we see at Blue Sky Bridge are sexual abuse cases, we believe strongly in education and prevention. This is why we talk to as many parents and teachers as we can about the issues of sexual abuse and how we can keep kids safe in our community. We talk to kindergartners and third graders in 2 school districts about body safety, safe and unsafe touch, and about talking to grown-ups when unsafe things happen to them and their bodies. We offer trainings for adults in our communities because we know it is an adult's responsibility to keep kids safe. We offer 2 types of evidence-based modalities therapy to the kids that have come through Blue Sky Bridge: TFCBT, or Trauma-Focused Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, and EMDR, Eye Movement Desensitization Reprocessing Therapy. Parents are involved with therapy at Blue Sky Bridge because we know that sets the child up for greater success. We also provide a support group for non-offending caregivers who often feel very lonely and isolated when something traumatic like sexual abuse has happened to their child. This group gives caregivers a chance to connect and support each other. The main goal of our medical program is not to gather evidence, but to give kids peace of mind. Sometimes kids don't understand what happened to their bodies and may have questions, or they may worry that something is wrong with their body. So they need to be reassured that everything will be okay. Kids who come to Blue Sky Bridge are referred by either law enforcement or the Department of Human Services. There needs to be an open investigation in order for kids to receive a forensic interview. If a family reaches out to you because they suspect their child is a victim of abuse, ask them to contact the Department of Human Services or law enforcement directly. If they call us at Blue Sky Bridge, we will also direct them to call law enforcement or the Department of Human Services, but heading them off before they call us prevents the trauma of feeling like they are getting the runaround. The cases referred to Blue Sky Bridge are victims of or witnesses to sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect, or sex trafficking, or can be witnesses to domestic violence, drug trafficking, or homicide. A forensic interviewer is someone who is specially trained on how to talk to children in a neutral and fact-finding way. They are trained in child development and specific models of forensic interviewing. They can also be called as experts and as fact witnesses during trials. Forensic interviewers remain neutral, exploring alternative hypotheses. Their main concern is the child's well-being. If a child is not ready to disclose, they won't force the issue. Progress in an investigation is not their main goal. A child-friendly location helps put the child and family at ease. Non-offending caregivers can get support from family support advocates. Family support advocates help with referrals for therapy, provide community resources, and offer suggestions for self-care for the caregivers so they can support their children. Investigators from the Department of Human Services, law enforcement, and the District Attorney's Office can observe the interview from a different room. Everyone is getting the same information in real time. The interview is recorded. The recorded interview can be used in court, but the child will still have to take the stand. After the forensic interview, the child and their family can start the healing process. Okay, we've spent some time explaining what's the role of the CAC. Now let's talk about your role in this process. Since kids spend so much time in school, members of the school staff may become part of their circle of trusted adults. The kids in your school will get to know you well, and you may become one of their trusted adults. They may tell you things that have happened to them. Even though it may not feel like it, you should feel honored that they chose you to disclose that information. That means they trust you and they think you can help them. Since you are a mandatory reporter, anytime a child discloses that they have suffered abuse, you will need to report it. If our community is going through a stressful time, you may hear about situations of domestic violence. Know that witnessing domestic violence is considered child abuse and needs to be reported. If you observe any behavior that makes you suspect abuse or neglect, you need to report it. Examples of neglect are leaving child unattended, not providing safe home environments, wearing smelly or dirty clothes, begging for food. If you suspect neglect, make a report. In most situations, the neglect may not be intentional. The family may be going through a rough time and may need help accessing resources. If you suspect a child is being trafficked, or if you see any inappropriate pictures or videos of a child, you need to report it. You may be wondering what being trafficked means. Trafficking is the exchange of any sexual art for something of value. This could be rent, food, transportation, personal services like nails or hair, babysitting, or providing other basic daily needs of a family. While many people think of trafficking on a large scale, as you might see in a movie, trafficking of younger children often happens by family members. If you are not sure, just make the call and let the experts figure it out. Remember, we are a resource available to you, so you can always call Blue Sky Bridge and get advice. A call to Blue Sky Bridge, however, is not substitute for mandatory reporting. You may still need to make a report. Now that you have heard that you need to make a report, you are wondering about how to make the report. We will talk in detail about how to make a report after we talk about how to handle a disclosure. In this section, we'll talk about why it's hard for kids to tell, that they will test us before they tell the whole story. We'll also talk about how to handle a disclosure, and about what to say to kids and teens after they disclose abuse. Kids as young as 3 years old can understand the social consequences of disclosing. There are lots of reasons to remain silent. Fear of not being believed, fear of being judged, fear of getting in trouble. They may also feel shame and/or guilt. Other reasons are their abuser may have threatened them or someone they love. They may not know who to trust. Sometimes they do not know that what is happening is not okay. Also, they may be afraid of what happens after they tell. Fear and lack of support are the biggest reasons for remaining silent. It is common for kids and teens to disclose to someone other than a caregiver, and many times that someone works at a school. This isn't because they don't trust their parent or caregiver. They're actually trying to protect them from something that is hard to hear and will upset them. Also, older kids tend to disclose to a peer first, and the peer will talk to one of their own trusted adults. Most likely, their trusted adult will be someone who works at their school. The act of disclosing abuse is a process. Kids may start by sharing part of the story and see how adults react to it. So if you hear things that seem confusing like, "I forgot," "It happened to my friend, not me," "It only happened one time," or "I was only kidding," kids are testing out the waters to see how adults will respond. It is common for kids to use this type of language in the process of disclosing. Also, keep in mind that kids will test you. They'll watch your reaction to their statement. If they see you can handle it, they'll tell you more. Otherwise, they may stop talking or they may recant. Even if a child recants, it doesn't mean that the abuse didn't happen. Disclosure is a process, and it may take time to hear the whole story. There is an easy way to remember how to act and what to say during a disclosure. We call it the 5 R's for handling a disclosure. Remain, respect, refrain, refuse, and report. These are the 5 R's. Remain calm. Respect the child. Refrain from investigating. Refuse to discuss the situation. Report to Child Protective Services and law enforcement. Remain calm. Take a deep breath and remain calm. Do not get upset or sad. Keep your face and voice neutral. Yes, we know it is not easy, but it is important that you don't react to what they are telling you. Respect and believe the child. Kids rarely make up stories about abuse. Survivors say that what hurt more than the actual abuse was that people didn't believe them when they told. Refrain from investigating. Ask open-ended questions and only ask enough to know you need to make a report. You really don't need to know all the details. Refuse to gossip. Respect the child's privacy. What you heard should be kept private. Keep in mind that gossiping can hurt the investigation. Report to the Department of Human Services and/or law enforcement. When the situation only involves children and the children are 10 years old or younger, you need to talk to your school principal. Together, you can decide what the next steps will be. It may be that you'll only make a report to the Department of Human Services. In all other cases, especially if the alleged offender is an adult, it is best practice to report to both the Department of Human Services and law enforcement. We'll talk more about why it is best practice to always report to both later in the presentation. Things to remember about how to handle a disclosure. Keep your face neutral. Do not get sad or upset. If they see you cannot handle the information, they'll stop talking. Kids rarely lie about abuse, so start by telling them you believe them. Then tell them that what happened was not their fault. It's important that they hear this. It'll help them heal. In the next section, we'll go over how to talk to the child during a disclosure. If a child discloses without a warning, do not interrupt them. Just pay attention and listen. If you have time though, find a private place where you can get down to the child's level to make them feel more comfortable. Listen carefully. If at any point you notice the child getting upset, ask them if they want to stop. If they say yes, stop immediately and tell them that it is okay to stop. Remember, you are just gathering information. Let the child share their story first. After they finish sharing, check with them to see if you can ask them some questions. If they say yes, you can ask for who, where, and what if the child hasn't already given you this information. Ask the question once, and if you don't get an answer, move on. The kid decides if they want to share that information. If they don't answer your questions, it is okay. Just report the information the child shared with you. It will be enough. Don't ask other questions because it may hurt the investigation. The professionals will gather more information later. Don't ask yes/no questions or why questions. Open-ended questions let the child narrate their story in their own words. You shouldn't use any props like dolls, stuffed animals, pictures, or drawings. Remember, let the child narrate and do not interrupt. If you think disciplinary action will be needed, consult with your school administrator before making any further inquiry or taking action. It is important for schools to collaborate with law enforcement and outside agencies so we do not compromise the police or outside agencies' investigation. Let law enforcement or other agency investigator ask the questions. The school should not participate in a group interview. After law enforcement or the agency conduct their investigation, the school can request from the agency or from the family, depending on the situation, the information needed to support the student at school. It is important to limit the number of times the victim will be interviewed. Students may also be entitled to protections at school under Title IX. Those protections may include a support plan that may be put in place even while the investigation is underway. Again, only get the basic information to make a report and then consult with your administrator who will handle any Title IX obligations and will coordinate with outside agencies. Boulder Valley School District also has a designated Title IX coordinator who can provide consultation and assistance to staff members. Following are some examples of open-ended questions that you may find helpful. Pay close attention to the child's answers because when you make the report, they will ask you to repeat the answers as close to verbatim as possible. Remember, a forensic interviewer will be going deeper, so don't feel pressure to keep asking questions. Here are some examples. Can you tell me what happened? Tell me more about that. What happened next? Tell me where this happened. Did it happen in another place? Who did this to you? If they say a sibling, ask them how old is the sibling. Who else knows about this? You can also ask, when will you see this person again? After the child is done telling you what they want to share, tell them that you believe them and that what happened was not their fault. Also tell them that they are very brave for telling you about what happened to them. It's important that you add that you'll be contacting someone whose job is to keep kids safe. That if other people come and talk to them, that it's important for them to tell the truth. Do not ask, why didn't you tell me sooner? Because even though you would have wanted to know sooner to stop the abuse, the child may take it as blame. It's my fault that it happened because I didn't tell you sooner. Don't make promises you can't keep, like everything will be all right, or you will never have to see that person again. We don't know if that will be true. Don't judge them or try to educate them. You don't want them to feel shame or guilt. This is not the time or space for that conversation to happen. Your reaction to their disclosure matters. Stay calm and keep your emotions neutral, just as when they tell you what they ate for lunch. Tell them you believe them. If they see that you can handle the information, hopefully they'll be able to talk to other adults about it. The child or teen might not be upset or crying when they are disclosing. Kids are resilient, and what is happening may have become part of their life. Their behavior may not be what you expect. Remember that your job is to report what you hear. Do not worry about its veracity. Let the professionals figure it out. Trust your instincts and report. Thank the child or teen for talking to you. Remember, it's important that they know you believe them and that they have your support no matter what happens. Ask them if they have any questions. And it's okay to tell them that you don't know the answer to the question. Don't guess the answer. If they think you lied, they won't trust you or other adults again. Also, tell them that someone may talk to them later and that it's important to tell the truth. As soon as possible, write down all the questions you asked and the child's answers as close to verbatim as possible. Also, include any extra information they might have told you. Think about the safety of the child. Will the child be in contact with the alleged offender after school? Did you see any visible injuries or bruises? Also, think about their mental state. Did they express any suicidal ideation? Have you noticed or heard other kids talking about them self-harming? Sometimes you will not hear a disclosure, but instead you'll witness some kid-on-kid concerning behaviors during school hours. It's common for anyone working with kids to observe sexual behaviors between children, and it is hard to know what to do. Here's a way to handle the situation. Recognize the behavior by naming it. Set a limit and move on. Do not shame or overreact. Here's an example. Recognize the behavior. It looks like you're trying to touch his private parts. He said no and he looks uncomfortable. Set a limit. We keep our hands to ourselves and don't touch any parts covered by a swimsuit. Move on. Now it is time to play on the swings. Like any other type of behavior, some sexual behaviors are common in children and are not in and of themselves cause for concern. Most of the time, a reminder or redirection from an adult is enough to stop the behavior. If, however, a behavior is significant, such as involving physical contact, or it continues, or you see or hear about multiple behaviors that worry you, then it is time to take action by involving your school administrators. The school district has protocols in place for mandatory reporting, and each school community has procedures for addressing and elevating behavioral concerns. Start by consulting with your administrators. Together, you can make a plan about how and when to involve families and if the behavior needs to be reported. Blue Sky Bridge staff is also available to consult with you and your administrators about next steps. The purpose of the report is to try to understand if any of the behaviors are coming from any victimization to either child. If in doubt, make a report. If a child tells you something that you are not sure is reportable, but it keeps bothering you, report it. Let a professional sort it out. It is better to be wrong about something like this than not reporting and then finding out that you should have made a report. When you are making a report, you are not making an accusation. You are sharing information and requesting a service. We understand that making a report can feel weird and uncomfortable. It is common to have the following concerns. Not wanting to get involved. But have you heard the saying, all it takes for evil to prevail is for good people to remain silent? Your silence and secrecy work to aid the abuser. Someone else will report. We're trying to change this through our school education program, but in reality, most children don't tell multiple adults. It's very likely that you are the only one who knows. Fear of getting in trouble legally if it turns out your suspicions are not confirmed. Under state of Colorado law, persons making good faith reports of suspected abuse or neglect are immune from any liability, both civil and criminal, unless a court determines that such person's behavior was willful, wanton, or malicious. Fear that the child will be removed from their home. Less than 5% of children reported for abuse or neglect have been removed from their home, and if it happens, it is usually short-term. The goal is to provide the family with the resources they need to ensure the safety of the child. The removal of children from their homes is the intervention of last resort and only occurs when the agency identifies specific safety and risk issues that present serious imminent concern. Then, the Department of Human Services works to remove barriers to reunification wherever possible. Fear that reporting will make the situation worse or concern that the parent will retaliate against the child. The first concern for law enforcement and the Department of Human Services is to protect the child and their non-offending caregivers. The first step for the Department of Human Services is to assess the safety of the child at home. Fear that reporting will have a negative impact on your relationship with the child or family. Yes, the relationship may change and it is possible the parent will be angry with you, but this is not about you. It is about being a voice for someone who is vulnerable. If this occurs, speak with your administrator and Boulder Valley School District will support you. These are legitimate concerns, but if you are a mandated reporter, you can face legal consequences for not reporting, possible civil and licensure penalties, possible reputational damage for teacher and school. Mandated reporters make at least 73% of reports. Others in your position are reporting what they see and hear. Hesitations are normal, but no reporting is illegal. Now let's talk about other reasons that make it important to make a report. Once you report, the burden is lifted from your shoulders. Getting the secret out is the first step towards healing. Even if there isn't enough evidence for the authorities to act on your report, it may become part of a series of reports that can lead to action later. The abuser won't stop on their own. Your report could lead to jail time and treatment for the abuser, which will help prevent future victims and incidents. Even though your report might not result in legal action, the investigation may cause other services to take place, like counseling or financial support. Child maltreatment is a form of trauma. It has a negative impact on brain development. It is considered an adverse childhood experience, or ACE. The ripples from ACEs are widespread. If we stop one set of ripples, it can be huge. And if we, as a community, manage to decrease child abuse rates, research shows that there is a decrease in juvenile delinquency, adult criminality, substance abuse, domestic violence, mental health care costs, and homelessness. Sometimes a child may say that what happened to them has been reported, but report it anyway. You heard the disclosure, so you need to report it. The authorities would rather hear 2 reports on the same incident than miss a new report because of miscommunication. Again, make the report to both law enforcement and the Department of Human Services. Let them figure out if they are both needed. We keep repeating that you should report to both law enforcement and the Department of Human Services. Why, you ask? Isn't it just adding an unnecessary step for me? Well, not exactly. Let's talk about why it is best practice to report to both agencies. One reason is that sometimes they may not share information on a timely manner. Another reason is that the 2 agencies have different roles. Sometimes those roles overlap, but many times they do not. Law enforcement's role is to determine whether a crime has been committed. Human Services' role is to make sure the child or children are safe at home and to provide the family with the support and resources they will need. Therefore, it may seem like an extra step, but by reporting to both agencies, you are ensuring that each agency has the best and most complete information possible to help the child. Here is the statewide hotline to report child abuse. They will ask you the county where the incident occurred, and then they will route the call to the correct department. Here we have a sample of the type of information the Department of Human Services will ask you when you make a report. Remember, it is definitely okay to answer a question with "I don't know." The staff at the Department of Human Services is very nice. The person taking the report doesn't expect you to have all the answers. They will be able to get any missing information from a different source. So there is no need to stress out. They'll ask information about the child: name, phone number, home address, date of birth or age, gender, their race, school name, any disabilities, language spoken. Then they'll ask you for their child's statement. They want you to recount what you heard as close to verbatim as possible. Use the same words the child used. They'll ask information about the non-offending caregiver: their name, date of birth or age, language spoken, their relationship to the child, their phone number, and their home address. They'll ask for information about the alleged offender: their name, their age, their relationship to the child, their home address, language spoken. Do they have contact with the child? And if so, when is the approximate date for the next contact with the child? They'll also ask if the child has siblings. They'll ask for their name, their age, and their school. They'll also ask if other people live at home, And is there any additional information you want to include in the report? Here are the numbers for the police departments in Boulder County. In Boulder Valley School District, the district has a form for employees to document their reporting. After calling to make the report, you will need to fill out this form. Since it is hard to know the dynamic in any given household, it is safest to make the report without involving the family unless there is a significant safety issue. Though reports are supposed to be confidential, families may learn that the school or an employee made the report. If they question a school employee, it is okay for the employee to say, "I am not able to discuss mandatory reports with you. Please feel free to speak with," and you give your school administrator's name. Listening to a disclosure may be upsetting, so reach out to a supervisor or counselor. Take a look at the self-care wheel and see if any of their suggestions may be useful to you. You can also call Blue Sky Bridge to talk to someone about what you heard. Here are some suggestions for administrators to make sure their staff is well equipped to handle a disclosure, to make a report, and to know what to do after they report. School district employees are expected to follow and document compliance with school district's policies, including completion of the mandatory reporting form. Thank you for attending this training. Now you have an idea of what it means to be a mandatory reporter, how to document the information a student might share with you, and how to report that information to the appropriate agencies in order to protect our students. If you have any questions about what we talked about today, feel free to contact us at 303-444-1388 or send us an email at info@blueskybridge.org.